Okay. Right. I'm not sure if this is working. My all right. Okay, so I just want to know if your voice is broken. Does it mean it works or not? All right. So for those who are remote, I'm trying the mic, so hopefully that works better than the laptop. The device will go on with the lab. So this one, as you can see, is going to be fairly easy. Right. So there are six exercises, and we're going to simply play around with basic HTML and SVG to create some basic plots. So, and then later on, we'll play with the free selected append and data join with divs. We're not going to get into the data join with SVG. And finally, there are a few plots with vector. So I'll try to go on this for the first hour. I know that number of people. Okay, it's still better. So just a second. Let me know. Okay, I know that there are a number of people who have already started and finished the lab. So if you did so and have questions, you're welcome to ask it. We can address those questions. And the second number, I'm going to try to talk a little bit about the project. So, yeah, so we'll that's later so that we have time. We'll come back to it here. Right, so there's not much else here that we look at. Okay, so this is the starter report that is exactly what you have. But I think the time you know what where to find the different pieces. Again, this is go for this once again so that everybody is aware of this. So this is where you create the rubric for the assignment for the homework. And if you click this window over here on the right, you can get a view of that, which makes it easier to read. The README, you can read it online, but there is not much. There are some notes there. So when do you want to add something on your own in this file? Simply because later on, when we're going to work on the projects, you can reuse some of the pieces from the homework for the projects. And so if you're running some homework, you find something cool that you want to make a note about, it's good for you to do so. Other than that, I think it's yeah, we've resolved all the issues of free school with GitHub, so there is no need to add that information. So I'm going to just follow through here. I'm going to release a new terminal because they are one running. And yeah, okay. But I'm going to do this. We started on a different window because this is my printer here. I put on that we're just going to start from here. Start. So yeah, you want to start the Visual Studio from here, or make sure that you load the folders so that things go smoothly. 4 minus and no. Okay, so it seems that this mic is not working, so I'm going to switch back to the laptop. Just give me a second. Okay, here we go. All right. No. Or maybe. Okay. Yeah. All right. So I'll try to speak a little bit louder so everybody can follow along. All right. Okay, we're going to go here. Okay, I'm going to open the console to npm install, which already did here. No, we're in the right one here. Oh. Okay. 3. Okay, here we are. Okay, so I'm just going in the same folder because otherwise the node tools are not at the right location, and I need to move around with the console, so it's easier to do it this way. So here I'm exactly in the same folder that has the code for the third assignment. I'm going to do this npm install, and if I can. A little bit bigger of a font. Okay. And then from the README, we need to do an npm run serve. Okay, so you see here what it does. It just executes this line, and this is showing up here, but the line is in the package, the JSON as a serve script. Here you see that it's exactly the line that was started. So this is just starting a web server that we can use to browse the pages. So we'll go to the lab, exercise 0. Yeah, is that the right one? Yeah. Okay. Are we 3 or 4? This is lab 3? Yes. Oh, okay. Okay. I thought it was different. This doesn't look right. This looks like the lab, the previous one. Oh, function chaining.
Yeah, okay, that's right. All right. Oh, okay, so here what we're doing, we're working out. So yeah, we saw this code, I think, before, right? You used it in the lab too, to create the bubble charts. And the idea here is that we want to build a little bit of a library to use it using the syntax chaining as you would with a regular D3 library. And here you see a little bit what is asked is that we create this drawing library that is here called mydoodle. Use the chaining syntax. That means that basically you just put the dot after the object to call a function. Here's the select function. And what we do in the first line is that we do something that is similar to the select and append that you do with D3. And here, the difference is that we're going to select the ID for the chart. So the chart is here as an SVG that has this particular ID of chart. We set up the background color so that we can see where it is in the page. This is often useful, especially if your graphic goes outside of the page or of the SVG. Then if you don't set up the background color, you end up with a white background, so it makes it difficult. Then we size it. And then we call this dot make bubble. That is a function. So the select is going to return the current instance object that we can use to call another function from the same object. And the function that we call is the one that creates the bubble. And that realizes this bubble at 250 elements. So here what is asked is just to play around with it and to ask to add a few more bubbles. Try to speak out because here. Where is the color? Oh, we don't see it here. Okay, so maybe there is a bug. I don't know. we can look it up. That's a good point. All right. So maybe if you want, we can try to fix that before. So there is no. Yeah. Maybe. Yeah. So if you look at let's look at make bubble, right? So we can try to get a clue about what is going on from the code. So here are just functions, draw a line, and you don't see it. Okay. So okay. Okay, so let's go look at this file here. mydoodle.js. It seems that the script there is not the right thing. Okay, so the mydoodle is here, and it should be the same that you have. And you see here the make bubble, okay? Okay, so in here it has a label. Okay, so we don't see it because you see that there are things that say finish me, draw the text in the bubble. Okay, so maybe we can start by there and see if we can draw the text. So I think so. Yeah, the instructions are not very clear. But this code here is Finish to implement using the sample codes. Okay, so this is code that we have seen last time that you can use to finish up the my doodle, right? You get that? It's written there. Okay. So supposing that I use and it actually tells you what to use, the draw text center. Supposing that I do that, I'm going to expect that that we're going to see the text right away, right? Because the server is running in the background and is doing the auth reload, and this you can see it down here. And it's telling you that it's watching all the files. So as soon as we change a file, something should go wrong. So we're going to try to here to put a syntax error. Okay, so what happened? Okay, so if we make a syntax error, you can see that we have an error that shows up here in the console. Okay, so don't look at the console that is here, because here all it's doing is telling you that it's watching the file and it is going to reload the browser. So he has the browser to render it, right? He doesn't know anything about the pages. It just serves the pages, and then the browser looks at it, and when he tries to interpret it, he sees an error, he's going to put it in the console. Okay? Okay, so now we know how to debug it. So let's get this draw, I think it's draw text center here, that we can just cut and paste. And we're going to put it here. Okay, so you see it's nicely formatted already. So we're happy with that. Okay, so obviously we don't want to call the function. What we need is just this part. We're going to fix this problem here. So I'm just looking here what is done. So these are this document create element ns are JavaScript standard that comes with the browser. And that is functionality for you to create, as you can see, SVG elements that are of different types. So at the top, we're creating a circle. Here, we're creating text. And then we set the attributes. So for the text is a little bit different because this is the, so who can tell me what this is here, this inner HTML? Why are we doing this? Yeah. So you remember, I should have, I'm going to write it here so for the everybody that is online can see it. So when you create your text element, it shows up like this, right? And when you put the text, you put it inside the element. So if you think of this as the DOM tree, you have the element, and the content of the element, that is the text, is another node that comes down from the text element, right? So this part is what is called the inner HTML because it's inside. So don't get confused with HTML. SVG is part of HTML. So all the objects that have an inner HTML will have this property that you can set to whatever variable. So here the string is not the type of the variable, it's just a variable, right? So there is no type, there are no types in JavaScript. You remember that? So it's either all var or let, right? Or const. Okay. So Here, what part of this line is going to get read when it's interpreted at the top of the script? Which part of this line? Do you remember that with var? When you declare a variable with var, what happens? It goes to the top of the scope when it's interpreted, right? So here I can declare this var all the way at the top of the scope. That here is what is the top of the scope here is this function, because JavaScript is function scope based, right? Do you remember that? Okay, so in the same way I did the var SVG. And this SVG is going to be available everywhere. But then the declaration part, the assignment for it, stays wherever you define it. Okay? Now, the other thing that here you want to pay attention to is this function. How do we call this? We saw this last time in class. You remember it? You remember the slide on the millified D3 code? It started like this. Within this is a function expression that is invoked immediately. Okay. So what I'm saying here is that as soon as you read this file, I want my doodle to be this function. That's all it's saying. And that's why this function, we can call its methods here that are, so functions like make bubble are in JavaScript, functions are first class, you remember? It means that they're like any other object or variable, right? And so because an object is made up of properties, I can call the function in the same way I would call any other variable that is encoded as a property key value inside the object. Yeah. So don't get confused by that. Okay. So now now that we did this, we're back down here for our text. So we have the text. We created. We set the attribute style, X, Y, field, stroke. We have the string that we set. So here the string needs to come from somewhere. And here you see that we call it label. And it's highlighted in red because we're probably not using it. So what we want to do is here to put the label, right? And then that's it. I think this should do it. Are the other variable? So this is a circle, right? The position and you see the input to the function is cx, cy, r, right? And here with the again we're taking it from here that takes an x, y, a string x, y as variables. So we need to check that all these variables are available in the scope. So the SVG, we already selected it, so we should be fine. Yeah, but you see, we're just calling SVG. So this is like declaring another variable in the scope. What we want to use is the this.svg that is available within this object, this instance, and then here the x and y should be cx and cy because those are the center of the bubble. Okay. So now, most likely, this is going to do what we want or not. The text is going to appear in the middle of the bubble. How is it centered? You can look here, right? Takes time to meter, alignment, baseline middle. Yeah, so we're taking the text and the center point of the text, and that's what we use to place it. So that's what we want, that the text is centered in the bubble. Yeah, but that seems good to me. So I save this, and now we have this hello here that is going to still to give us an error. You see that it is starting here. So I need to remove it. Okay, and we forgot the fill. The fill is the background color here in this case. So we need to replace this. And the stroke, we called it color. All right, and here we have hello. Okay. Yes. Yeah. Now, if you look carefully, I can zoom in. Why can I zoom in and it's still nice to see? Can somebody tell me why? Sorry? Yeah, you see that whatever the scale or everything looks sharp, right? Yeah. So why is that happening? Yeah, the SVG, right? So we're doing SVG, right? So the S in SVG is for scalable. So here, the text is not drawn as with pixels. If it would be a picture and we would zoom in, we would see the pixel. In this case, you can zoom in at will. The SVG is just an abstract representation, and whenever the browser needs to render it, it looks at the zoom level and renders it with that zoom, that resolution, right? And that's why everything is very nice here in chart. Now, if we look again at the text, we see that here we fill and stroke. Here we use background color and color. The mapping is not correct because here we mapped things the other way around, right? So if you want the field text, you need to go and switch the arguments in the function. Right? So okay, so now if we want to go back here, so this is the example 0, and we want to add another bubble, then we just use the chaining syntax, right? Okay, so hello there and up, and this one we're going to put it 15. Okay, so it's not more complicated than that. And we basically built drawing a bubble chart library in JavaScript. I think it's more or less what we did. So it's the poor man's version, but it seems to be working. Now, what is the difference of this with the way, say, D3 does things? Okay, can you see it? So here we basically have these functions, and then we pass a bunch of parameters. So you need to think about what is the data in there, right? So the data might be the radius of the bubbles, right? So if you have a table with a lot of data, then you need to go and basically change your table into lines like this, where you set up the radius of the bubbles according to your data, right? So that's not really scalable. With D3, what you would do is that you would say, oh, just give, let's take this data. How many bubbles do I need based on the data? And just create bubble elements at this position based on the data and with this radius. So you just write one piece of code that is driven by the data, but is not functional in style, right? So this is still, even though we're using the chaining syntax, this is a functional interface to making charts, right? Because we're saying, and that if you need to characterize more, you would say that it's a chart typology, right? Because it's the function says make a chart of type bubble chart. Here it's lower level, but that's a little bit the idea. No questions on this one? Okay. All right. So yeah, and I think get into the bit if you have a bit of time. I think I opened this one already last Wednesday. So try to maybe, you don't need to do everything, but just take a look at least to see that you understand what is asked. So we don't lose time with that, and then try to see if you have questions on what are the implications. I think that's useful, including the basic debugging, because all these exercises are not just designed to teach you how to do a bubble, because you know how to do these things, but it's also, if you're not familiar with developing for JavaScript, it's kind of complicated. So you want to use that as a mean to get a little bit of training in that. And later on, when we do more complicated things, you'll need it. Okay, so now we're going back to the one. Okay, so these are the bar charts with divs and inline style. Inline style meaning that we use the style attribute and we put the CSS properties in a string that we pass in. So this seems to be mostly straightforward to me. So what is asked? Using the sample code and the data. So here we have a data set that is 200, 150, and we want to do 2 bars of that size. Now here you have some sample code. Is there an answer? There is no answer. So you can start with the sample code to go with, and I'm not doing the complicated things that would be to do vertical bars. We're doing horizontal bars. Even the vertical bars are, yeah. There are, why the vertical the horizontal bars with CSS with HTML are so much easier to do than the vertical bars. There is one basic, or at least done with divs. You see the div here? Somebody remembers? So what is it special about a div? A div, a paragraph, and those classes of HTML elements. Yeah. So how do you, what is the, so that's the display mode, right?
This is for vertical bars on the side.
Sorry?
So for vertical bars, we use tags to print everything on the side.
Yeah. Yeah. So you remember in I don't dare to use the board because I don't know if this thing is following me, but yeah, maybe I can draw here. Sorry for making everybody dizzy. Oh, okay, good. Okay, so horizontal bars, they're like this, right? they're boxes, and this is what we're asking. They're just boxes, one under the other. Vertical bars, they're all on the same line, if you want. Right? So now we're trying to do this with divs. So you remember the box model in HTML? Every element in the page is a box. And the div has a certain display type. That is, you have inline and block. The block one, they just fill the space by default. So if you want to do the horizontal lines, bars, the only thing that we need to do is size them. And we're pretty much done. If we want to do the vertical bars with divs, we need to change the display type so that we can do as you do with other elements such as bold or here. So this is an inline element, right? So the text here is going to show up as bold, and we can see it. Where is it? Yeah, the sample code is bold. This is in line. It's on the same line. One element. It is a box. Comes, and then there is the other inline element that follows. And so we need to change the two things. We need to set the size and to change the display type. And there you can use an inline block display style, but I think you got the point. Okay, so this one is very easy. I'm not going to spend too much time into it, but you basically started by copying this div into the answer. I don't know if you want to do it right now, so you at least if you have questions, you can ask them. So in the answer, where is the answer here? Sample code, the answer, your code here. Okay, so this is HTML. So do I need to do anything special or just cut and paste? I just cut and paste, right? There is no SVG to set up. This is just another HTML element. And we put this here and we should see it. Exactly, we see the 100 pixels. So if you don't like the color, you can go and change it. And the only thing that you need to do is match the numbers here, which is straightforward. Okay, can nobody has a question about these things here? Like, who can tell me what those are? Right. So this is showing up. Oops, sorry. This is showing up here, right? Oh, by the way, what is this? So one question leads to the other. So this is an HTML comment, right? So you remember that. So yeah, the brackets here they show up fine, but here they look different. And so what this is this is the HTML character for the lower bracket. And if you look at the other one in the other side, this one I didn't put it because I was lazy. Okay, and I'm lucky that that the browser understood it. Okay, so here the problem is that we're in this pre-formatted code blocks, and when you do that, it basically interferes with the interpreter. So you cannot just go and start another element because it won't be able to understand it. It will understand it as HTML. It will understand that this is another element, and probably we're not going to see it at all, or it's going to look a little bit strange. My guess is that I would vote for the former, because you never want to put these things on the end user, right? Okay, so we move on to the 2, and I think that, you know, if you do the exercises as we discuss them, then you're basically done by the time you get out of here. And here again, I mean, we're not going to split hair. We're just going to look at if you did the exercise, just to see, to make sure that you understand how to do these simple things. But we're not going to, you know, give extra points because you've changed the color of the bubbles. Okay, bars and div and inline style attributes with CSS inheritance. So here, you remember for what we saw in class, the CSS inheritance is that you can use the style attribute for classes on an outer element, and then it's going to trickle down and be applied by default to everything that is inside. So that means that usually you can use it for, you can use the outer element as a group element that allows you to replicate the same style across. Obviously, you can either do that. Now, if you use a class, does it make sense to do this with a class? At least for the outer one, instead of putting style there to create a class. I don't think so. I mean, unless you have multiple of these that you're using in the page, then you're using a class for just one element, which doesn't make sense. Might, you know, if you're into keeping the code tidy and you like to have all your CSS in one place, then maybe. But still, probably you'll want to use an ID there as opposed to a class. Yeah. And then you can separate the code, the CSS, and put it in a CSS file that you just include. Otherwise, if you create a style, then I would just, and you have multiple bars here inside, then that's where I would go and put a class. Yeah. Okay, so those are details, but I think it's good to have those little rules in mind, because when you do things with D3, you're going to say, okay, these are my bars, and then you need to decide, should I use a class or should I use a style, right? Okay, so I'm not going to do the thing there because it's also straightforward. Bars with div and class attribute, I think we just discussed it. And right, because there it makes sense. We don't want an outer element because it's nonsensical. And we just put the class in there. If there is something about this particular bar, I mean, it's overfilling to create an ID. Just, you know, we just can put it there. The other way that we can do this, how can we do this in another way here? Without style, can we do it without style? Right, so you remember this is styling, style attributes, CSS attributes might be element attributes, but it's not always the case. So I don't remember right now, but we can give it a try. My guess is that it works. Where is it? My answer is here. Oh, yeah, sorry. We're going down here, right? Oh, and then we need obviously to put this too. Okay, now yeah, I'd rather copy it because otherwise, right? I need to put this, right? Now somebody tells me what happens when I put this in here. Where is the style definition active? Where can I use this class? Anywhere in the page. It's not after, it's anywhere in the page. Yeah. You know, yeah, so you need to be a little bit careful when you have multiple style definition. You probably want to put them together. So what I was suggesting is to do this. Okay. And here we go, and it doesn't work. Yeah. So okay, I guess wrong. So you need to be careful. Again, when you do these things with D3, you need to decide which mechanism you use. So that's why you need to play around a little bit with this simple thing so you don't spend hours when you actually realize those dynamically. Yeah, if you Google it, maybe there is maybe I'm doing a syntax error there. Sorry, but I don't think, or yeah. 2. Okay, let's go to 2, and then we'll do a short pause. Okay, bars with SVG. So this is basically the same, and instead of using the HTML, we use SVG, so you can see the difference. The big difference between HTML and SVG is that there is no hierarchy. You can group things together, and there is a group element that is, I'm going to write it here. Do we have a bit of SVG? No? Okay. So I'm going to write it here, and then somebody is going to tell me if I'm doing something wrong here. So this is the group element in SVG. And here I can group a circle and what is it again? CX equal then CY equal 10. Okay. Am I doing anything wrong here? Am I going to see this circle? No. So we need an R. Okay, good. Yeah, here we go. 5. Am I going to see this circle? What is the default for field? It's black, so I'm probably going to see it. I think this is enough. But I'm going to see the circle. So okay, so maybe there is nothing wrong with this. Supposing that there is nothing wrong with this piece of code, still you won't see the SVG. Why? No, no. To see things in a page, they need to be in a div. No, no. The SVG is perfectly fine. It's perfectly fine. No. No, there is something fundamental. Look, it's outside of the body. Yeah. So anything outside of the body, you will not see. Okay. Okay. So good. Okay. So other than that, is there? Yeah. So obviously the text is handled differently. If you know in HTML you can just go and write paragraph div a paragraph. You cannot put HTML elements inside an SVG. Right? I mean we can try. So let's try to copy this, to try to break it so that you understand how things work. Because oftentimes you make an assumption and then okay. So here we see our bar of 400 pixels. Again, we're going to put here a paragraph. I don't know what is going to happen. My guess is nothing. Hello. No. Oh, it shows up after. I don't know. No, it shows up inside as a block. So it's weird. Okay. Yeah. So you can always, you know, what happens if we put it before? I don't know. Hello 1. Hello 2. Yeah, they go at the bottom. They go at the bottom because the interpreter sees them, and then each browser is going to do something different. Because you're not supposed to put HTML in there. At the same time, if you put some HTML, maybe you made a genuine mistake, and you want people to see what you're writing. And so he's treating it as HTML in the box model. So he has created it as SVG. The next space is under, right? And yeah, because the paragraph is also a box. And so that's it. Okay, good. Okay, maybe we do a quick break because I think the rest is here is straightforward, right? Okay, let me see if there are if there are questions from people online, I can take them. Otherwise, I'll go drink my orange juice.
The example 0, how many circles do we need to add?
Or just a few more. Just a few means at least.
So no exact number.
That's it. No,
Okay.
you can add a couple.
Okay. Huh? Only the circle, or we can for another.
If you want to draw another shape, it's fine. Yeah. Yeah.
So basically. So this.
Yeah, as long as you do the minimum of what is asked, it's good. They're going to give you the point. And then if you want to do more and because you want to play around with it, there are things that you don't understand, then it's up to you.
So here is the.
You just think about the grader. The grader needs to say, okay, did it do it or not? Okay, so if you're in doubt, you can ask him. Modify the code of example 1.1, exercise 1.1 to use an outer div.
This one. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is
Okay, okay.
1.5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
So-
cool.
For this question is that like you showed us like
Yeah.
the hello to the
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Because if you can fix the field to be white, I need to unmute myself. Okay, so unless there are no questions on the number 3, then we'll go on. Let me check if there are questions online. Oh, somebody was answering to an earlier question because it's an SVG. Very good. Okay, good. So we're moving to 4. Okay, bar chart with D3, select and append and div. So here, this is one of the 2 mechanisms. So the select and append, we're doing it again, function like, where we're going to say, oh, we're going to take this element, and here we're going inside to append a bar or to append a circle, right? So it's functional programming, and you could do it with any other library, not just JavaScript for that matter, but people don't do that because it's less convenient than say even the chart typologies approaches. But because select and append is kind of central to D3, we're just taking a quick look to see how it works. Okay. So here you see that it's very simple. So d3.select or d3.select all are the 2 functions that allows you to make a selection in the document. What is the document again? It is the D in D3, that is the DOM, right? So you're not selecting something that you see in the page, you're selecting something in memory in the browser. So whatever you change will need to go through a refresh in order to be seen. And so here we're selecting using this pound chart. So can somebody tell me quickly what this is? So what is the argument of select? Okay, what is an ID? Well, it's yeah, pound chart is an ID. But I mean, it's a placeholder for an ID. It's when you create an ID, right? You use the pound sign, and then you do a CSS declaration. This is not the CSS declaration, right? This is a CSS selector. It's a string that allows us to select some CSS. So elements based on these properties. So for the ID, you prefix it with the pound. If it's a class, you put a dot, right? So the notation is CSS-like, but you're not really doing CSS. It's a selector that you want to specify. And what is this EL here? Can somebody tell me what is the EL? What do we get back from d3.select or d3.select all? The chart. There is no chart here. So there are 2 things that you can get back. It's some descriptive object of what is selected, or the actual DOM node, right? So which one is it? Is it the DOM node or it's some descriptor? No, it's a descriptor that is called the selection. Okay, so you don't get the DOM node back. Actually, if you want the DOM node, you need to do something. You need to look in D3. They have a method for that, but where you seldomly use it. Here, what we're getting is just a selection. It's an element in the DOM that is a node. but we have some type of object that represents it. Is not directly the DOM node. Okay, and it's important to keep in mind that it's what is called the selection, right? And the selection, when you do a select all, it's an array-like object. But we cannot assume more than that. We know that it can have multiple elements as an array, but we don't know how it's implemented. It's opaque to us. So then we can use this returns this instance, so we can do other things with d3. That's the chaining syntax. Same thing that we saw with the draw bubble. It's exactly the same thing. Yeah. And so here we call another method that is the append method that works on a selection. And we do selection.append. Now the append, I don't think that there is a d3.append, but you could do, which would be equivalent, another selection, right? So you can select on a selection, or if you don't have something to select on, then you use d3.select. The append, you need to do it on a selection. So some of these d3 quirks you'll get to know quickly. And then chaining syntax. And here you see, that's why you need to know, because you need to make those decisions. Do I want to use a class or do I want to use a style? So this is just coming from the CSS, okay? There is nothing more to it. You just configure your element. It's same thing as we did with the circles, where we would class them directly with JavaScript. So with JavaScript, we actually work with the node. When we do the select SVG, we create actually an SVG node, and then we attach it to the DOM. That's what we did in the previous piece of code. So here you see that there is a lot that is done behind the scenes, but still it's just the same SVG and manipulation that you would do in the way we did it earlier. If there are no questions, I'll move on. Okay, 5 bar charts with d3 data join and div elements. So this one is also straightforward, but before I go here, I had questions on the few exercises that were at the end of last lecture. So I'll go back to that because that has to do with the d3 data join. Here we are. Okay, so this one, I think, okay. This one. Okay, this one, I think that there are not that many questions. The only thing is you want to understand this. You remember what it is? So this is the ternary operator. I think I don't know, is there the same thing in Python? It's been a while. Yeah, okay, so this is clear. Here. Okay, what will appear in the page? So this one is kind of confusing, but you need to keep in mind that there is so much that I can ask you. So I can try to confuse you, but you need to stay sharp and understand why the solution is obvious. So given what you know, right? So can somebody see that it's only possible it's A or B quickly, just from the looking at the code? Now this looks like a lot of code, and with D3 we're going to write a lot of code because that's what happens. But so the way you look at it is that you look at it by chunks, and remember that it's a declarative syntax. So you just need to think what you want to do. You don't think out. You don't treat this as, oh, I do this function call and then this other function call. You think what this block of code is meant to do, right? So what this block of code is? Where is it? Is it using D3? Is it a selector append or a data join? There is no choice. Select and append. Data join, yeah? Okay. Where are we? Okay. So this is a data join. What the data join does is that it joins data with the DOM. Yeah? And it realizes here what are we doing? We're appending some text. So we're adding text based on this data. Okay? One data join. Then here, what is it? We just do a selection and style, right? So we just set the underline. What do we do here? Is this D3? No. It's a function call that applies on data set, and the function is declared on here. Why can we use this function before it is declared? Huh? Is this getting hoisted or not? It does get hoisted because it's a frequent expression. And so we can use it anywhere. And we use it here on the data set, and we get back a data set, right? Now, this is called shuffle, and it shuffles the array. And if you look in there, you see math random. Okay, so this is doing a random operation on the array. Okay. So what do you expect that the result of data set is going to be? Anything random, right? So if it's anything random, do you think I can put it in here? I cannot list it, right? So most likely anything that happens after this line is useless, right? So what else do we do here? What is this? Another data join. And then we do another set style. We remove the text coloration, right? So if I look at this, I say it's either A or B. It's here. I cannot predict this, right? And there are too many choices here to be able to put it in the form of 4, right? And definitely we're not appending something. So now the question is, why are this data join is not doing anything, right? There's not too much what is the output of the random operation, is why this is not doing anything, right? So now that we have to choose between A and B, you see that the choice here is if there is an underline or not. Yeah. Now these, so supposing that this doesn't do anything, and we get this result, then these are probably still going to work, right? There is no reason why they would not, right? And so you know already what is the answer. But now the question is why this is not working. So to understand that, you need to go back to the example that is here. So if you don't understand this at this step, then you don't understand how the data join works. Okay, and it's you really need to understand it, because otherwise you cannot use it. So I'm going to repeat it. Here we do a selection on the body. What comes out of it? It's a selection, right? This thing that we don't know what it is, it's probably in the form of an array, but that's what it is. And so we get that kind of reference on the body, which is good because anything that is inside the body, we're going to see. And here we want to see the text, right? That's why we select the body. Then we select all the paragraphs, right? The point of the data join is to join the data with something else, right? And so here the something else are the paragraphs. We want to create paragraphs for this data set. And so what we start doing is checking how many paragraphs we have in this page. Because for each one of the paragraphs that we have in the page, we want to associate it with a data point, right? Now, because the page is empty, we don't have any paragraph. And therefore, given that we have here 3 elements in the data set, we need to create 3 paragraphs, right? But up until now, we didn't say what we want to do. The enter says it. The enter says that we need to enter 3 paragraphs into the selection, because all these return the selection, yeah, in order to map to the data set, right? So this enter means exactly that. And then up until this point, the DOM tree didn't change, right? So my picture here is the box. Here I'm picturing the DOM tree, but this box is really not the DOM tree, because at this point is the selection, right? And so as soon as we do the enter and append actually creates the elements. That's what we do when we do make bubble, right? We add it to the SVG. Here we're doing the same thing. We're adding it to the body. But only at this point, the paragraphs are in the DOM. Yeah, before not. And then we can configure them. Yeah. So now we go back to this example here. And here we do the same. We do the same logic, right? Exactly the same thing. We get to the enter, we get to append. We're appending a span here. It's the same thing of a div, except that it's online, inline. And setting up the text, so we get red, blue, red, blue, red, blue. They're spanned, so they keep following in one line. That is what we see, right? And then we set them underlined. That is the first line here. Now we go back here and we do the same argument. So the same argument says, okay, here I'm passing the shuffling there. We reselect the body. We select all the spans. So now we have 4 already. They're there already, right? And we say the data set is this data set that has been shuffled. Here is the order of the data set important in the data join. That's why I did this. Is the order of the data set important? No. If we do the data join in this way, the order is useless. You can turn things around. What counts is for the data join if you have the same number of elements in the data set and in the page, right? Here we have the same, right? So when I say how many need to enter, what is the result? You have them already. You have the data set of the exact same size. I don't need to create any paragraph. Is that clear? So I don't need to create any paragraph. So here there are 0 that are going to enter. And so these lines, they don't do anything. This thing does nothing except checking that my data set has the same size as the number of paragraphs that I have in the page. Is that clear? Okay. So if you think of it in that way logically, if you get to situations where I think of it logically, but does not what I see in the page, then it means that you have a syntax error in this block. And the syntax error usually is that you swap the select and the select all, or the data and the select all. And so these, they work on the selection on the previous step. And so that's a pattern that you don't want to change. You can change your text. No, you cannot even change text and append because it doesn't make sense, right? And my guess, if you do set the text before you do the append, the elements are not there, and the free is going to do what he thinks is best, that is not to do anything, right? Okay. Now, hopefully that was clarifying. So with this in mind, we go back to the exercise 5, and so here it's also just to play around with the code using the data join. So you see that's exactly the same code, except here what we're doing is that we're changing what we're not adding spans with stacks here. We're gonna add the divs for doing bars with HTML. So we need to apply the class in the same way we did in HTML. So all this stuff just comes from the HTML. So, and what is the same here is the structure of the data join. Okay? That you don't want to invent, because the person who did this say it's in this order and this is how you do it. Okay, it doesn't make sense to try to you don't use this. This is not functional programming, so you cannot just go and do this in the random order again. Okay, cool. So I don't think that there are more questions on that. 6. Bar chart exported with with Vega. So with Vega, you just need to go and do it starting from the example. Was I nice enough to do this right? No, you see, oh. Okay, so let's go fix this. So this is exercise 6. So here, I don't want to open it in the same window, so I'm going to open it in a different one, which you do with target blank. Yep. Exercise 6. Are we talking about the same one? I don't know what's going on. Okay. 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 So if you put target blank, you should not see it. Okay. So and it doesn't work. So what do? I just go with the inspector and I look at it. Yeah. And you can see here that it didn't refresh it.
I think you are fixing the A tag for a second.
Sorry?
In the code you added the target flag for a second.
Right. So I'm not doing what I think I'm doing. Exactly. Okay. Here we go. Okay. So hopefully this time it's good. Let's see. Yes, we see the target blank, and then this should work. Yes. Okay. Okay, good. So this is the Vega Lite, that is JSON-like syntax. So again, it's like a JavaScript object. But those you can serialize and save and load. So the way you save and load these things, you can do it with 2 functions. Can I put a piece of script here? I can maybe do it here. Script. Okay, so supposing that I have this, no, not this object, but yeah, I'll take this. Okay, I'm going to use let, even though it doesn't make any sense here. Okay. Okay, so this is our JavaScript object. Okay, so I can go, as you can see, I can just console log this. Where is the console? The console is here. I don't see anything. Is that the right page? No. Okay. What am I doing wrong here? That seems right. What am I doing wrong? No, but anything that goes inside the script is executed. So, sorry? I don't think so. Here we go, debugging. Okay, is that the right one here? Okay, we see hello. Okay, I give up. I give up. Seriously? Okay. So somebody Google it for me. Why my script doesn't work in the page, and then I'll go on in the meantime. Okay, can you Google it? No, seriously. So here I can declare this object here as a key property values, and it shouldn't matter if I put the strings, but when you actually write it into a file, and for it to be valid JSON, it needs to have the quotes on the keys.
Professor, you declare that you have to embed it in a Vika and give ID and then put the ID in a division.
Sorry?
And so it
Yeah, you want to come and do it?
is you can embed it and then you have to put it to show it in Excel.
But the div, I just want to write to the console. The question is, why can I just write to the console if I write script? I mean, a
You
script.
still do
Huh?
embed it into
I don't think so. Oh, you're saying that there is another. I don't know. I seriously don't know. Is this okay? Let's do the sample here at the bottom. Man. Okay, we'll do the sample at the bottom. I have no idea. Script. Yeah. Okay, I'll do this, but I'm not doing anything different. Okay, so you see it works because you see the three dots. So why my thing here it doesn't work? That's crazy. I'm in the body. Yeah. So it's sometimes JavaScript is some JavaScript is too much JavaScript. Where are we here? Oh, this is the free code. Where is it? I'll put it here. I'll put it here. Still nothing in the console. All right, I don't know. I lost my Latin. Okay, so we see the chart. I still don't understand why my console log doesn't work. I don't know. Okay, so regardless. So anyhow, you saw the example. So so here you see it works because we're in the page already, and it doesn't matter how we declare it because we're passing to this function. We're passing a JavaScript object, right? We're not passing JSON. JSON is when you have in a file. And so it doesn't matter if we declare the keys as the strings quoted or not. All right. So here you have the example. If you want to turn things, and I wanted to show it with the console, and I don't understand why this doesn't work for me. But if you want to turn this in JSON, then what you can do is called okay. So I'm going to create a JSON string equal. Doesn't matter here if we put var or not because we're at the top of the scope. So you have this function that are JSON parse and stringify. So stringify is going to create you a JSON string, and the parse is going to read it into an object. Okay. So here I can do stringify of VL spec. Here we go. And so if my console works one day, we can do console log of this JSON string, and it's going to appear as a string. Okay, because it's what it is. It's a string. And then if we want to put it back in another object, we're going to say let other spec equal parse And then we're going to pass the JSON string. So this is reading from the JSON string and putting it into an object, other object that I can then use in here, right? So then this is typically what you want to do if you have such a spec that is stored in a file, and then you want to load it, okay? And you saw that in the page. Look at that. Oh, I know why, because I'm on, I clicked here on errors. Here, 3 messages. Oh my God. Okay. Yeah, so always puzzling. Yeah, be careful with this, right? Because here we had the error selected. We were only seeing the errors. This one, by the way, is for deleting the errors in case you have. So here you see that this is the string, and this whole thing here is the string. And if we console log the object, that is the other spec, it writes it nicely as an object. You see, and you can go and look inside. Okay. Yeah, most of the time this works, but sometimes it just you get object equal object when you cannot print it out. But for basic types like this, you have usually no problem. Now you saw that there are these 3 little dots here. So this calls the exports with different types, so you can save it as a PNG or whatever. And you'll see in the examples that you can add interactivity to these charts. View the source is just going to show you what you expect, that is the spec. And you can also use it to customize it here in the Vega editor. Okay, I had another graphic in there. So in the Vega editor, you basically have a free pane window here with some debugging information at the bottom. These are the data as they're read through here. So you can go and change them, and you should see them updating there. The signal viewer here is for interaction. So at this point, we're not going to take a look at it. But so if you want to realize it, you obviously click on the run. And what it does is that it does exactly what we did in the page. That is that this website has also a Vega, I don't remember the name of this thing in the page. This Vega embed library. And it just realizes it and puts it in there, okay? So it's exactly the same thing that we just did. And obviously, if you want to go and change those to put to 2, then you see that it changes the graphic right away, right? So the syntax here, we're going to look at this a little bit more into detail when we talk about grammars. And then I'll stop now because it's 50. We didn't have time to talk about the project. So I'll try to send something out. The scope of the project is that they're group projects. We said 3 or 4 in a group, and either a dashboard or an infographic. And what is outside of the scope is doing hardcore data science. So you want to spend your time on the representation, not like the tree, rather than the data. Okay. So it's and the idea of the end of the month is that you get together in the group and you decide what topic you want to work on, what data do you have to work on, and understand a little bit what you want to build. So you don't need to design it, but just have a basic idea, so that you understand if there is a need to do data analytics or data cleaning, right? All those things you want to try to minimize them so that, or at least, you know, if you need to tackle them, to have a plan. But that's a basic towards the end of the months. And I'm just asking you to put this on a online